You're tuned into RX Radio. Movement prescribed. Brought to you by Prescript.com. A personalized approach to keeping you healthy and making your best even better. Your hosts, Dr. Jordan Shallow and Dr. Jordan Ginta.
Let's take it to boxing. You get nervous before you go into a fight. That just means your brain is working the way it should.
Yeah.
Is that kind of, so it's like it gives comfort to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, who was it we were talking to that gives names to thoughts? Have you heard this before? Was that with you?
Talked to John North, and he had a similar thing where he like created a persona around that feeling, and that was like his lifting persona. So it sounds like a similar kind of thing where you're just channeling that and you're using that as your preparation for.
Yeah.
They also talk about it really similarly in The Obstacle is the Way. Just like they don't talk about it, they don't give it a name or anything, but you've read it. So
Yeah.
Well, how they talk about everything just being information, and it's okay to have like an initial reaction to whatever that information is, but past a certain point when it doesn't serve you, you just have to realize that you have the choice to do with that information what you want. So
Yeah.
you can choose to not be stressed or be scared or not. You know?
Yeah. And I just remembered why monkey and not something else.
Okay.
It was because when you're afraid, like you think in your head that everything is kind of magnified, right? Like all of your fears, all of your...
When my first girlfriend broke up with me, over. Emily
You
Cecile
think
called
your
it
life
quits.
is over.
Worst day ever.
Yeah, including like me, for example, that I like deal with anxiety, panic attacks. For me, it's like when I'm having an anxiety or a panic attack, it's magnified to a point where, like I think I'm going to have to kill myself. Like I'm like, oh fuck, I'm like losing my mind. There's no way I'm going to get out of this. My life is panic attack now. Like I'm never going to be out of it. Like this is over. And obviously like that's a much more severe issue than like having like competition anxiety, but it's similar in a way. But the reason why he encourages his athletes to personify it as a monkey is to also kind of, because in your head all of these fears and doubts are so big. It's like what is it to be afraid of in a small, tiny, cute little monkey, right? That's just trying to do its job. It's just trying to like alert you about something, right? So once you switch it from like this huge, massive lion monster that's in your head, that's terrifying you, to, hey, just this little monkey that lives in this really tiny part of your brain that is just trying to do its work, its job. It's just kind of like an interesting shift in perspective.
So is that something that you want to kind of succumb to, just kind of let it happen passively, or is it something that you look to kind of control?
Performance anxiety or
Well, the monkey.
The monkey, yeah.
Right? Like does the monkey's existence, like, is it something that, okay, like, all right, monkey, dance, all right, stop dancing? Or it's like, the monkey's just doing what monkey, like, do you try to leave it alone? Is it just an awareness thing?
It's an awareness and just a shift in perspective of like what it means and what the fear means and what it's trying to do for your performance. It's like a change in interpretation. Like the perfect example that I give is, have you ever been, when you're in an airplane and there's like really bad turbulence, what's the probability that the plane's gonna fall because of regular turbulence? I'm not talking like crazy up and down.
You're not losing an engine.
You've been on some flights where I thought for sure we were going
Okay,
down.
yeah.
How do you handle that? Because I'm my most calm because I'm like, all right, this is how I go. Like, you know what I am? I'm like Kramer in the final episode of Seinfeld. Glory, hallelujah! Like I just sit there, like, all right, we're done.
You think that's not a bad way to go?
Dude, I've lived the best life ever.
In the particular experience I'm thinking
That's
of,
terrifying.
Because we think
If
differently
the
about
plane
death.
falls
Though.
off,
Yeah.
it's terrifying.
no, for sure, I'm freaked out. So
I don't want to die like that.
In most situations of turbulence, I'm totally fine, right? This was getting pretty crazy. We were flying through the mountains in Colombia, and literally, like, people on the flight were in tears, crying. It was so bad, right? And I had my eye on this military guy who's sitting a couple rows up, and I'm like, this guy's for sure. He's seen some shit. He's been on probably some crazy flights. He's jumped out of planes, whatever. Like, I'm just basing, should I be scared off this guy? And he was pretty chill for a while. And then it got really bad at one point, and I look up, and he's in the seat like this, and I'm like, we're all dead. This is how we die.
Yeah, okay, so obviously there's
But I
situations.
sweat immediately when that happens.
Really?
Even the slightest bit of turbulence, like I'm not freaking out, but I'm like, it's like a natural stress response.
But hold on. Let me go back to like the
Yeah, that
shift
was
in
a
mindset,
tangent.
shift in perspective. So one time I was in an airplane and there was some turbulence. not crazy turbulence like that, just like the average like tuk 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 kind of thing.
Right. No, totally.
Right?
The audio really helped for our listeners at home.
Yeah,
the two two
for
twos.
people who are not looking at me, that's a tuk 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 tuk. So if you equate that to say driving through an unpaved road, it's really similar. It's really the same. Yeah. Or maybe not an unpaved road, but a road that's like bumpy.
So as far as pure sensory input goes, yes, I agree to that.
And the meaning too, that small turbulence doesn't mean that the airplane's gonna fall.
Sure, but there's an underlying ultimate consequence that's severely different in both situations. Right?
Like
Okay, yeah, but probabilistically speaking, what are the chances of it going down because of that small little bump in the air?
Yeah,
it's just bumps in the air the same as there's bumps in the road.
Right.
And seriously, I went from having tachycardia whenever the airplane would make any sort of deviation from this, like legit straight tachycardia, borderline heart attack, to it literally not even phasing me. Like I can sleep through planes and I'm like chilling. And it's just that shift in mindset.
But I think the shift in mindset seems like it was based off of an underlying underlying understanding of like the logic and probability behind the event in which you were.
For sure.
Right. So it's like all of that, the personification of the monster under your bed is just you identifying and circumscribing the outer borders of the consequence of what this thing is.
Yeah.
So it's like the shift in mindset starts with like learning.
Yeah,
right?
what
like
it is
an infant,
and what it isn't.
It starts to cry because it has no idea what the fuck is going on, right?
100%.
Or just having a strong enough mental game, you know, like it sounds like a joke because I'm going to use a George Costanza reference, but the whole "it's not a lie if you believe it" thing, you know, that's true, right? Yeah, and you talked on John North earlier. Yeah. What he used to always say at MASH, he used to talk about what he called manufactured confidence, which was like he's openly said like, I'm the most insecure person ever. Like the most.
Okay.
He doubts himself constantly. He's got anxiety, like all these different things. But when you see him on stage, he looks like the most confident nut job you've ever seen, and he's intentionally doing that for the same sort of reason as like it's hard to feel sad or upset when you force yourself to smile. It's this. He says it's like the same thing, and then I actually picked that up from him and always sort of like carried that with me, and it actually helps a lot.
For sure.
So well, there was that TED talk on like the change in neurophysiology based off of the way you like sit in a room, right? Ever since then, I've just been man spreading the fuck out of every room. If I don't got fucking like the Sam in here, I'm literally just like, hey, what's good? It's like I walk into like a bank branch, like, hey, how are you? Or like power lunge into the counter, like a McDonald's with like a checkout counter or something, because it's like. And there's so many people who reference this, right? Like the Hayden Boweism, deceive until you achieve, right? Yeah. Or like the, what's his name? Wayne Dyer, right? BPAX was like right off the Wayne Dyer or like off the Wayne Dyer deep end. It's like if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, right? So, but I think the mindset stuff sometimes, I don't want to say gets too ethereal, but I think it can be based in a logical understanding of consequence and cost benefit analysis. Like if you like can logically think things through and think of the probability of that. Like I actually had this conversation the other day with someone who was with Tess about like, there's a book called The Gift of Fear. We've talked about it before. It's like this dude named Gavin DeBecker, and his whole job is about like assessing risk in situations. So like, for example, a hostage taking situation. Like there's just statistics that override this whole thing. Like, all right, if he starts talking about like the helicopter and the $1 million bank, whatever, we got him, right? If he goes silent, like that's not good. Because statistically, when people stop talking to us, people start dying, right? So he talks about like if you can think it, like it's possible, but it's also least possible. Because like, you know what I mean? If you highlight it, it's almost like taking a whole picture and then drawing a picture, like taking a whole canvas and drawing it in with pencil, and then using an eraser to see what's left, right? So you're sketching in with an eraser by erasing things that could happen. Because a lot of times, like what you think is going to happen is not what happens, which is like kind of a blind confidence. Like when the plane's not going to go down in the time with turbulence. It's just going to be like, yeah, do you have a Diet Coke? Boom! And then goes the left engine. And then it's just like you're fucking nosediving into the Bermuda Triangle or something. Right. So it's like when those situations are like heightened, because that's the interesting thing about fear that this book highlights. I read another book, or I'm reading another book right now called When Violence is the Answer by Tim Larkin.
Dude, I choose violence daily.
Dude.
I wake up choosing violence.
All day, every day.
Straight up.
Because it's like... I think people who choose that are rare, And but every now and then, like I was trying to explain this the other day to someone, that there's a decibel you can hit and there's words that you can choose that are the outer limits of verbal and like expressionary ways of communicating. I'm signaling to you that I'm not going to get any louder than this. I'm going to punch you in the fucking face. So it's like, why not just go there? Then you'll figure out real quick who wants to scrap or who wants to shut the fuck up and do what you want them to do anyways. Like I had a leasing agent who they stopped taking our auto payments, North Park. So I had this little guy who was like this little, anyways, I'm not going to, there was this dude who.
Was he physically little?
He was little.
Okay.
His name was David Gomez.
All right.
He looked like
Shots fired.
Like absolutely. I hope he listens to this. So they auto took out payments in North Park. So it's like, what's your bank info? We'll take out your rent. And then they stopped doing it 1 month. And we just went on our lives like our rent was coming out. And I came home to an eviction notice on the door and a crying fiance. Like I'm not at a great point in my life. And all of a sudden I got an eviction notice on the door. So like they just didn't take it out that month. Like, yo, this is on you. Like you set up the auto payments and you stopped the auto payments. So I just walked into the Cypress leasing office and I was like, in my mind, like, what's the decibel? How loud do I have to get before shit gets done? Because I'm not gonna be like, hey guys, like.
So this is actual like voice. You're talking about like voice decibels.
Yeah, like I'm gonna get fucking loud.
So,
But because I'm gonna bring it right, because I'm gonna bring it right to the level where they know I'm not gonna get any louder, and I'm just gonna start swinging.
So give me an example.
Like how loud?
Yeah.
Dude, I want to ruin your mics. Like I just start fucking screaming. Because well, here's the hard part, right? Like you want to think you go into these situations and you can be like logic and reason and be like, well, you guys kind of were supposed to take it out and you didn't, and they're trying to charge us like a fee on top of that for like a late fee. Like, well, we'll see what I can do, and like we'll talk to our manager. But like I'm telling you, if there's a level you're willing to bring it to, and just go there. Like we're gonna take this to the penthouse, top floor right away. There's no like, oh, okay, well, yeah, sure, we can speak to a manager. Wow, we're gonna have to go to district on it. All of that goes away. All of that wasting of time. Like if you just jump to the top floor and you're like, I am willing to get as loud, as obnoxious as possible, and it worked. I went into his office. I took his manager in there. I was like, we need to have a meeting. I closed the door behind. And he stood up. I was like, no, you sit down. I put a grown manager and I just screamed at them. And then it's like, okay, they gave us that month for free.
Okay, curious about something. How do you think that situation would have played out if it would have been me screaming at a grown man? Like,
interesting.
How do you think that would have played out?
See, you're different though, because you're terrifying. Dude, if
For
you
someone
came
who
in with...
doesn't know me, no.
If I came in a room and anyone with quads your size started yelling, it's like, if that thing starts swinging towards me, we're all dead.
It's interesting because I was having this conversation with Hayden about just being a female in the workspace or being taken seriously. And it doesn't even have to be a workspace. Any sort of situation where you have to confront another person, specifically a male, a guy. Dude, like I'm not taken seriously. The perfect example was when we went to Tampa and we had a flat tire. That was that time, right? We had a flat tire, or we had a thing in their tire that we had to fix, right?
Okay. Oh yeah, I remember the story.
So Hayden calls, what is it called?
Whatever, like a Firestone.
A Firestone. He calls. He's like, "Hey, this is what happens. We're driving back to Miami. We need you to look at our tire, fix it, whatever." Oh yeah, sure, no problem. Come before 4 p.m. Okay, perfect. We're there around like 3:30, and Hayden's waiting for me in the car. He's like, "Oh, just go out and see, where we should park. We should leave the car." So I get out. I was like, "Hi, good afternoon, sir. We called earlier today at 10, and we had a flat tire." He's like, "You didn't call?" I was like, "Yeah, your name is Alfonso, right? We called at 10. Told you the white G-Wagon had a..." "No, I don't remember that." He's like, "Yo, I know we did, because I was in the car. You spoke to my fiance, Hayden. Like, I know for a fact that you had that communication." "No, sorry, there's nothing we can do. We're close in 30 minutes. Like, there's nothing we can do for you."
So she comes back to the car. She's like, "I think we have the wrong place." I'm like, "No, we definitely don't." So I'm sitting outside of the place and I call it. I'm like, "Yo, what's your address?" And they're like, "Tell me it." I'm like, "All right, we're here. Like, I literally just called you guys a few hours ago saying we had a tire that we needed repaired." And he goes, "Oh shit, yeah, man, I forgot. Bring it in." And I just walked back in the thing. He's like, "Oh yeah, hey, sorry, man, was that your girlfriend? Like, I didn't realize that it was you who called earlier." And I was like, "Dude, she explained all of that to you. How many people called you and said they needed a last-minute tire fix on their way back to Miami?"
Yeah.
Like, it was very clear. He just just like kind of like he was a mechanic, so it's like an old boys sort of.
And I've been in situations like that before frequently, and I've talked to even Julia, my interior design. She has to have a guy help her communicate with people who work.
All the trades people.
Like she literally has an appointed person that is the middleman between her and the people that work for her.
So, question, like, because there's a relationship where you're still the superior, and even with Julia, she is still the superior in the situation, right? So how much of that complacency on behalf of the men towards the women is just because you're in a position of power, and how much of them being not in a position of power is based off of their proclivity or their affinity to not see equal value across genders, right? Like, you got a guy who's changing tires, and you got a guy who's just doing what the smart design lady tells him to do. It's like, maybe they're not the smart design person because they're not open to seeing equal opportunity based off of skill, merit, rather than gender.
I'm sure there's a correlation there.
But this has nothing to do with opportunity anymore. It's just...
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, like, do you find yourself in situations where you're on equal standing? Because, right, like, you're the fucking boss, right? Like, you walk in and you're like, yo, we got a hard out at noon. And you're talking to me like, yo, fuck yeah, whatever, dude. But like, do you find yourself, and it's probably difficult to find yourself in equal standing with someone across the board with business or with lifting or with fighting or whatever, where it's like, you walk in and it's like, you're kind of swinging the big stick. Like, you're the boss. This is what happens. So is there a situation where you find yourself shoulder to shoulder with an equal at your level of competency or success, where you've seen that dynamic start to still fall in that negative favor towards you?
Yeah, but not with the person who is equal to me. Because in most situations, like, say, for example, you and I, you respect me as a professional, you respect me.
The best part is she doesn't respect me as a professional.
Fuck you,
no,
of course I do.
No, I got you.
You know, or, you know, even us, like, you, even though I'm a girl, you respect how much I lift, you respect what I've done, you respect my academic achievements, all these things. But it comes more down to, I think, more so like the general public, or even like clients. You know, I think that's where I notice the biggest discrepancy. Right. Like, the perfect example I can give you is one of the NFL guys that came into hybrid, right? Wanting to work with someone. You and I are equally as qualified. Maybe you more because, like, you've been on the field more, but I have the knowledge and the tools to be able to help him with what he needs right now, right? He still wouldn't choose me because I'm a small girl. He would go with you because you're a big, imposing, like, you know, guy.
I think there's multiple levels to that, and I think one of them is, if you're a football guy who doesn't really know, like, you two can talk at a very high level, and he might not understand anything you're saying.
Yeah. So
it's very difficult for him to evaluate you based on the merit of that. But he can walk into the gym and see that Jordan's a massive guy, and he's like, "Hey, I want to be a massive guy."
Yeah.
I think
so. It's just like an easier connection for them to make.
I look at it like single issue voters. I find single issue voters really infuriating, right? It's like, well, I don't care about foreign policy, but, you know, my taxes are going to go. Right, exactly. Yeah. It's like, and that's always associated with people of, like, you know, that's associated with, frankly, dumb people, right? That you're willing to sacrifice the collective of, you know, a style of government or a party of government because we're like, oh, as long as I got my guns, like, well, you might fucking need them based off of the shit, like, you know, based off of foreign policy. It's like, yeah, it's a good thing you have your guns because, you know, China's going to be knocking on your doorstep because this guy's in bed with like half of the fucking government or whatever, right? So I look at that, like, that football situation where it's like, this guy's a single issue voter, right? He came out of some really good pedigree college program. He got some bullshit communications degree, runs a 4.4 flat. He's going to put up 1,000 yards in his career, or 1,000 catches in his career. And for him right now, his biggest thing is, like, probably cruising his DM. So he's in the room. He's like, okay, what is my single point of validation here, right? Like, but I think you can look at it from this higher level because you're at a higher level. And I think whenever you run into these issues, you just need to first understand that, like, look, people are, like, there's such a vast difference in the presentation and the ability of people. And we're all just like, yeah, everyone's the same. It's like, no, some people are very incapable, which is fine and whatever. Like, and you don't want to pass judgment, but I think part of, I don't want to say getting over it because that's not the right way, because you shouldn't have to experience that. But, like, part of the inevitability is just like, again, you just have to take it on you. And because they're unaware that they're doing it, and you're so aware, but it's your awareness that ascends you to this position of power, right? Where you can sit there and be like, okay, like I get why the guy at the tire shop at 5:30 just wants to go home and crack a Bud Light in a half hour. He doesn't want to change the time. So he thinks he can get away with this, but it's that same complacent level of thinking that means he's working the Saturday night shift at the tire shop.
Yeah.
So it's a tough thing because we talk about it all the time. It's like that scorpion and the frog shit, where it's like human beings are just going to do what human beings are going to do, right? And it's like, I think it's just driven out of self-interest. You're just plagued with the awareness, the situational awareness to be able to see it when no one else does. And like, fucking, are you serious? Hayden's got a call from the, like, oh, you son of a bitch. But it's like, okay, I'm in a situation because of I'm aware enough, and I can use that awareness to leverage my status as a professional or as a lifter or whatever. So that's always like the catch-22. Because as I feel like as you get to the top, not to say it doesn't happen, and obviously the bias seems to be towards men like doing this to women, but I feel like it starts to even out a little bit.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, look at some like highly intelligent athletes who haven't fit that mold. Like Matt Frazier, for example, the way that we actually met him was through him reaching out specifically to you to help him with his deadlift.
Yeah.
You know, that's someone who's top of the world at what he does in a really relevant thing.
Right, but it goes back to what I said about Matt and I are equals in terms of success in sport.
Right, yeah, same thing he's saying.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's the perception of you by people that know you and your accolades versus the people that perceive you as your appearance.
Exactly.
Right?
What's a real recognize real?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And when it's like, there are certain, like I bring this back to like kind of ex-phys. In order to run fast, you have to actually run fast. Like you have to adopt the technique and shape and ground contact of someone who runs fast. You're not getting in the top 8 at the Olympics unless your force plate analysis looks exactly the same. It's the same with business. It's the same with success in anything. Like there's a certain level of there's certain attributes that are across the board, and people have their own permutations and their own flavor to how they sort of put these ingredients together to cook up their own success. But at the end of the day, like respect is going to be one there. Like not many people ascend to the ranks without some level of respect for themselves and for others, right? Like there's going to be these hallmarks, these character traits, whether innate or whether adapted over time, that successful people are going to have. And one of them that doesn't necessarily propagate well is being a misogynistic piece of shit, right? Who can just sit there and be like, get out of here, toots. Like that doesn't happen anymore. I don't think, or at least it shouldn't. I'm sure there are places where it does still, and people slip past the goalie. But I think as you kind of ascend in, in what domain of competency you're looking to be successful in, that trait should, I think, thin out. Now, does it still exist at the top? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I think in lesser numbers. So it's always like a situational awareness of like, oh no, the construction worker who's and I don't want to be like diminishing. I'm sure there's plenty of construction workers. The guy who did the air conditioning last time you were there. Classic situation, right? Yeah. Me and Jake were sitting. So me and this fucking platinum blonde, tattooed, shirtless British bare knuckle boxer are like posted up on the balcony, and this guy's like going around the air conditioner. Steph's sitting there. She owns the house. I'm couch surfing. He lives like 45 minutes away, and we look like we look. And the guy starts talking to us about the air conditioner. I'm like, yo, she's the boss, dude. Like we're just hanging out. Like I just drink all the bubbly drink in the fridge, and then I leave. But he's the guy who changes the air conditioner. Again, nothing against guy who's changed it, but it was clearly that he looked at us like we were the boss. Like, this house? Like, are you fucking joking me? Get out of here.
Also, in those lines of work that are predominantly male, all of those guys are answering to other men.
Right.
And I think maybe they can just build an association with male figures being authority figures. Yeah. Like, it might not even be as deep-rooted as them consciously being misogynist,
Yeah, it's but dude, I think there's got to be an ownership, because at the end of the day, regardless of the intention, what's the outcome? Right? Like why can't you? And I'm not saying we all need gender rebias training, but it's like there are 3 people in this room. All 3 of these people should be equally likely to own this house. Actually, the guy who's platinum blonde with the knuckle tattoos, probably least likely to own this house. Right? So I think it should be at a certain point, like, because that's a lack of awareness on him. Right. And that lack of awareness might stem to that default behavior that's not malicious. Like, guy's probably got a wife and kids, probably like a really good dude. but it's like there's a certain. It takes a fucking lot of work
but see,
on yourself
in situations like that, because I still adhere and agree with certain gender roles. So it's situations like that where
Which ones?
Well, for example, who takes care of electronics in the house, or not electronics, repairs in the house? Usually, just based on gender roles, is the guy, right? Like the guy is the one that climbs up on the roof and like tries to figure out what's wrong with the AC and cleans the vent and changes the filter, right? Just like gender rule based. I'm not saying that we're not capable.
Real man's man.
Girls are not capable of doing it, but I think out of chivalry, you know, you want to do that.
Go ahead.
Oh, we're going there. Yeah. I think out of chivalry, it's nice. It's nice for me. It's nice for you to do that for me, right?
Sure.
It's not that I can't do it, but it's just one of those like gender roles that it's the way that it's been, and at least personally, I accept. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now, where do you see your responsibility and reciprocation in the gender role? Because I struggle with this. Like, Tess tries to do the dishes. I'm like, stop. I don't need a housekeeper. I can do my own fucking dishes, right? And
that would be reciprocation.
But yeah, but I don't know. But isn't that kind of like anti-chivalry though?
No,
like if we're evening the score.
If your only point is to exchange something of equal value to show appreciation,
okay,
I don't think it necessarily matters. And society's already mapped out these sort of things like that make it easy for you to assign those tasks. It's like,
look,
as long as you're not like, do the dishes, bitch, because that's your role.
Yeah.
You know, like that's fucked up.
Right.
But,
right.
You know, but if she's like, oh, I want to do the dishes because you were nice and you took out the garbage.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Because look,
cool.
say that there's 20 things to be done in a week for the house, you know, including like putting the trash cans out, taking the trash from the trash onto outside, and making sure that the vents are clean, cleaning the dishes, whatever it is. Like there's a certain amount of tasks that have to be done in a week. Some people gravitate towards one, some people gravitate toward, or a person gravitates towards one, a person gravitates towards the other. And it doesn't have to be I do the dishes, you do the AC. It's literally like what one person prefers to do, what the other person prefers to do, independently of gender.
yeah.
What's the breakdown?
I mean, that's like, in that scenario, that sounds like teamwork, right? There's
Yeah,
a
it's how it
common
should be, I
objective
think.
that you two are pulling together to work to complete those tasks throughout the week.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
The thing that kind of makes it hard, though, is where's the dividing line between, you know, I'm a sexist or misogynist and I'm chivalrous?
I think
Right?
I think it's the attitude towards, it's like, I think when you, removing the expectation, like you shouldn't be expecting that I clean the dishes all the time. You know, I would prefer and expect that if you eat something and you put it in the dishwasher, that sometimes you are gonna take care of it, and that it's not my job, right? Same thing as like you sometimes expect that I take the trash out, or that I call the AC guy, or that I'm there for the AC guy, or that I pay the AC guy, right? On occasion. Like it doesn't have to be 100% of the time, but you want to know that you can rely on me for those tasks as well.
Right.
I think that's how you kind of like draw that divide.
Yeah.
Turning into relationship counseling right now.
Yeah. I think it's like
I'm just taking notes. I need all the help I can get. I was like, then what do you guys do? Interesting.
And it doesn't have to be an eye for an eye. Like I think when you start like keeping score, that's a
how do you know if
fucking
you're winning or
dangerous.
losing?
Well, the hard part is
No,
men
that's
and women
dangerous.
keep score differently,
That too.
right? Like because it's and correct me if I'm wrong, because it's like I get your female opinion whether I want it or not. It's like, yo, you're kind of being an idiot. Let me tell you all the reasons why you're an idiot. It's like, all right, bring
You'll
it
tell
on.
the story of when I called you randomly.
Which one?
When I was like, yo, we have to talk about your relationship.
You did that like 100 times. I remember it's when I just moved into my condo. I was putting together the only piece of furniture at the time, and she did like an hour and a half dissertation. Not even like, hey, are you busy? It's like, okay, you're not busy anymore, and just like straight dope. Like, you might be missing the point, because that actually dovetails well off what I was saying. It's like I count score differently in relationships. Like I think if I do something like, hey, let's go on a trip. Like, let's go here. You know, you seem pretty stressed out. Let's go wherever. Fucking 10 points for Gryffindor. 100%, right? Where it's like, I said thank you after dinner. 10 points for Gryffindor? And like, look, I don't care, but like, don't get mad while I'm ahead on points, right? Like, don't try and pull some dumb shit and be like, rah, 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 shmee, shmee, shmee. It's like, okay, yo, like because I'm an action person. Like that's actionable. Where it's like, thank you is like that's a nothing point if you're gonna be up my tree about some shit, right?
Yeah.
So it's.
into a competition, not a relationship.
I like
Thank
to
you.
win, though. I
Yes.
like to win. No, dude, you know me. You know me. You've been.
Relationship long enough to know the guy
You-
can win.
Yeah, true. You're just mitigating losses at this point.
Yo, just don't keep track of points, man. There's no point, especially because you're never winning.
But why? So I don't. I'm afraid to ask the question because I feel like I already know the answer, and I hope you don't say the answer that I think. Why is the default dub always going to the female? Don't say it.
Wait, you want me to answer or no?
Answer,
I'm
but I
confused.
just hope it's not the thing that I think
Oh,
you're going to
okay,
say.
okay.
Probably is.
Like, why is that the case?
I
Is
think
it
it's
historic?
just because women are just like more relentless. Like it's pointless to try to argue with us. You know what I mean? Because
Have you met me? It's pointless
it's
to try
why
to
you
argue
and
with
I
me.
are not dating.
Right. Oh
Because
my God.
We would
It'd be
in an
murder.
argument
It'd be
we would
murder.
never leave this room because no one would give.
It'd be a murder homicide.
You know? We'd have to write a paper here, publish it before we get out. Try to figure out who's right.
I don't know.
But-
Also, we're more replaceable,
Who? Guys?
men than women.
I disagree.
Really?
No.
Yeah. Oh my God, I changed my
Dude.
mind about that as I've gotten older.
Go.
Dude, just look at the structure. Look at the structure of a wedding. Okay, that whole day.
the
you know where I'm going with
tuxedo.
this?
Go.
No.
That whole day is set up. The bride
Yeah.
is the only one that stands out.
Right.
Okay, you're in white. All the other women in different colors. All the men in the same color.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So if I was shot dead
Because the
at
wedding.
my wedding, hold on, you could literally just shuffle over the next guy, and he could take my place, and the wedding would look exactly the same.
But that's only because.
That's how society views that
no,
relationship.
no.
Yeah,
There's
no,
several
we're
points
sending
here.
them into mines. We're blowing them up. We're sending them to space. We're completely
Legit.
expendable.
We are the
We're-
monkeys that they send to space, but
Right.
for everything.
Right.
No, it's just, the reason why you're going to space is because I think.
We're the test dummies.
Exactly.
Like if you throw
Totally
enough,
expendable.
if you throw
No, it's not
enough
because of that.
male lives at something, it'll work.
I think that has to do. That particular has to do with physiology. Like I think that.
We're also dumb enough that you can just point us in a direction and say, like, wreck that thing.
Yeah.
You know? That's what wars are. And it's mostly dudes.
Okay, hold on. There's several layers to what just was said. Okay, let's start with the wedding. Okay.
Okay.
The reason why that's the case is because in most cases the wedding is more important for the woman, for the female. Like the girl is more excited about the wedding, the whole thing. Like her side of the family pays for it. You know, it's more like her thing, her show. Like girls are brought up dreaming about their wedding and what they want it to look like and their dress and all these things, right? To give you an example, I was not like that. Like I had never envisioned my wedding. I never envisioned a dress, nothing like that. And actually you got your suit done before I got my dress.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a special kind of suit. It's not a black suit, right? Like you were going for, what color is it?
Blue.
Right. It's a blue suit. So there you go. Like and it's because it's important for you,
I'm
right?
a
Like
progressive man.
Right. You wanna show off. You want a big wedding. You were the one that wanted a big wedding. Like even more than me.
But
So-
is it possible that he wanted that for you?
No.
And it was also very important to your mother.
My mom wanted
And
a wedding,
I
not a
want to
big
keep
one.
her happy.
Yeah, okay. Now
I
make
gotta-
it out on my
I
mom.
gotta
Now
stay
he's
in
trying to
those
get
good
points.
books.
But you know what I mean? I think it's just like a matter of like who's it more important for. In most cases, guys don't give a shit about the wedding,
Sure.
the wedding as an act. And what were we talking about before? Because I wanted to
Well,
say
I just
something
think the
that I
wedding's
wasn't
more
able to
important
say.
for women because it's all about them.
Oh, okay. About because you were like men are dispensable.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, and I said to a certain point. So I think once a woman, so peak of a woman in terms of like them being able to pick a mate and pick whatever, peak is 25 to 28. Once you get to 30, you start declining, at which point, man, I've seen it like at bars. Have you ever seen like a group of like 30-something-year-old
Terrifying.
single woman?
Run. They're
Yeah.
going to trap you so quick.
Yes.
They got a pocket full of like condoms
dude.
with holes in them. Just
Dude.
get the fuck out.
Yes, like you can,
Vultures.
Yes, you can smell the desperation in their breath.
Yeah, it's an issue.
Yeah. So at that point, you are the one who has 100% of the power. Like, you're the one who gets to pick. And guess what? You guys age like fine wine. Like a guy with like gray hairs, like, you know, a nice watch and like sweatpants, really successful, like mid-30s.
This is Miami's successful.
Mid-30s, like, you know, really experienced, has been sleeping around, not too much, you know, just a little
voice
bit.
That I'm hearing.
I don't know.
Carry on. Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Do you know someone in your life that fits this bill?
Then you have the power. You know, 35, 38-year-old male, man, you could have whatever chick you want. Once a girl passes 30, options start getting limited.
That's the illusion of stability.
Right.
They're attracted to, which is different. But I think if you presented a girl, a 20 or a 30-year-old girl with two men who are equally successful, one is her age, one is 60. She's going to choose the one that's her age, right?
No.
So I
think it's going to depend on
evolution for the long.
On their bank account.
No, but they're equally successful is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, they're equally successful?
Yeah. The stability is what's attractive, not the fact that the guy's old. They just associate being older with stability.
Yeah.
But if you had two people of the same level of success, that one is 30 and shredded up and, you know, surfs as a hobby, and the other guy's a fat old dude, it's a no-brainer.
So because it's no longer natural selection, and it hasn't been now for a few generations. Like I would say when we were going into the draft and into war and like back in the 40s, like, yeah, that was natural selection where we've entered in, and who knows where this is going to go, but we're now in the era where evolution is driven by sexual selection. Because like there are people like, he still lives in the valley. There are people who should not be getting laid, like straight up but they have a weird competency in a thing that never existed before. It's like if we were all walking around a rainforest, right? It's like, well, yeah, we'd be doing pretty good. We'd find some other chimps, and we'd make other chimps. It'd be great because like we can all like, I don't know, kill other things and smash rocks and make whatever. But it's like there's a whole lot of people now who don't have those physical capacities that natural selection indicates you must have had in the past in order to propagate. You can be some software engineer guy working at Google, right, who like can't do a muscle snatch with like an empty barbell. If you're getting paid, you're getting laid, right? So it's like this guy's closing tail, and it's like, this doesn't bode well for the evolution of human beings, right? So I think the power is in females' hands, but what they find attractive now is just different, not better or worse, but definitely different, because you don't necessarily need to be a physically competent, able person or powerful person. Sure. You could be a entry-level tech, whatever, software engineer and make $250,000 a year, and you're like, yeah, you're doing all right.
Sure.
Right?
I think what's changed is that's the dominating factor. And I think that
like with cream.
Huh?
Cash rules everything around me. Like that's what you're talking about.
That's maybe the dominating factor, but again, I think there's still a built-in like mechanism that makes people attracted to other people who are at least in shape and show some sort of physicality, right?
So you're looking at going, those are some birth and hips there. Like, that's not how you're possibly picking mates, right? Like,
I mean, it's part of it.
Do you think there's a subliminal?
That's part that is subliminal. Like,
sure,
it's been proven that the waist to hip ratio of a woman, like that's something your brain is calculating that you're not even aware of, but you will find people attractive who are closer to a certain ratio.
That's like the whole makeup thing.
What is it?
Well, makeup in the workplace was a big issue. Like people would put like rouge and blush on, but like that indicates a certain hormonal state that triggers a response in the male. So like part of the issue with like women in the workplace was like, and this is like such a hard, I don't want to say hard conversation to have, but contentious. It's like, all right, well, should women be able to make makeup in the workplace? Yeah, absolutely. Should they be able to do that and not get fucking harangued by every loser that works there? Yeah, for sure. But what is makeup actually doing on this subliminal, primal, evolutionary level? It's like, well, it's sexual signaling, right? So it's like, if you are just some moron in the mail room, like drooling out of both sides of his mouth, and some chick walks by and like your stupid brain just goes, oh, like face red, let's just go dry hump her leg in the fucking, right? It's like, Dave, like fucking, but obviously that's Dave's fault. But Dave is kind of at this weird crossroads of like, look, women have only really been in the workplace for 30 years, and it's like still kind of a thing. We're talking about it. So it's like, should they have the independence? Absolutely. But that independence shouldn't, and I'm never going to excuse the behavior, but it's like Dave's sitting there with 3.2 billion years of evolution going face red, cough break room. Like, that's not UKO Dave, but Dave's sitting there going, what do I do? I got like this crazy evolution thing, and I'm seeing the thing, and my brain's just going break room, like, get her, like, yo, rein it in, bro. But and so it's always, it's hard, man. Like, we don't know what to do with this. It's a relatively new experience, right? Like, my grandmother worked, and my mom still talks about what like a pioneer she was, because she grew up in Newfoundland. Like, she worked like a full-time job while my mom was growing up. So like in the 60s, 70s. And that was like something to be marveled. It was not that long ago, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a thing. I mean, a lot of people getting canceled for reasons just like this. You know, this is definitely not a world that's set up for people who have any sort of impulse control issues.
Yeah.
I wonder what Elliot Holtz has to say about this.
So what's the deal
It's all
with
the
this
women's
guy?
fault.
Elliot Holtz?
I don't know. Yeah.
I think he lost his mind a little bit.
He was the guy like with the pale eyes, like the dude. Yeah.
Yeah, he used to just be like a motivational fitness guy who's all
Right. And
just
now
jacked, like half
what is he
black
doing
dude.
now?
Now
Coaches
he
guys.
he kind of says
On
to
how to be
men
men.
without saying it that like women, he's basically insinuating women are inferior, and that tells men how to get them and dominate them.
How to be an alpha.
There's nothing more. There's nothing more
He's
latent.
built an entire platform on this.
There's nothing more latently homosexual than men's support groups. Like, I have friends that are males. I have friends that are, but I don't do some little rascals like He-Man women hating club. It's like,
Look
dude,
at it. You listen to this
Dude,
title.
also when you're in the place of most privilege, it's like, how
Guys.
much support do you need,
Yeah.
bro? Relax.
go.
Listen to this title. She's not your partner. She's your helpmate.
Shut the fuck.
I'm
That's
not
where the
kidding
YouTube
you.
guy went? Yo,
Yeah.
rein it
Approach
in,
them
bro.
like you would an application. Approach them how you would an application for a job you're trying to fill. See, this is the way it is before hookup culture existed. Men were out there as the prize because everything was based on
No,
Based
this
on
guy
what?
was
Based on what?
not.
Based on
This guy was
relationship.
neglected a tit as a kid or something.
You know what's weird? He never showed any of signs of thinking this way for years and years and years of being online. It's almost like he was just like, well, I've done all the fitness topics.
It wasn't based on hookup culture. Men are the gateway to relationship. Women are the gateway to sex.
Oh, how's that working out for you? It's just, how much of that do you think is sensationalized for us to sit here and read about it? Everyone, like, hey, do me a favor. Everyone listen to this. If you follow this guy, unfollow him. And don't go to his page if you don't follow him. Because, like, I'm sick of conversations driving attention to idiots. You no longer vote with your dollars, you vote with your attention.
Well, how much
So don't,
is a stunt to get like followers and
or
likes
to have a
and-
conversation
but-
about it on a podcast.
Maybe, but he's got to believe it on some level.
Absolutely.
To be able to just sit there and just...
Does he just bathe his brain in too many steroids and now he's just a moron?
I don't
Like, is
know.
this
I
just
don't know
short
personally.
Esther consciousness? Like, is this just Tren with a Twitter account?
It could
I
be.
don't know, man.
I don't know. Like, I don't understand that no one benefits from it. Like, that divisiveness, no one's going to benefit from it.
No, and all you're going to do is create a bunch of guys who are going to attempt to do the things that he's advising them to do and never
Do you
have
think it's
sex.
strategic on his part? Like, do you think it's strategic on his part because he sees a demographic or a market of people who feel like look at video games, right? Like, there's a lot of single dudes just sitting around playing video games. Like, well, how could I monetize that? It's like, what if I made a rallying cry as the Jack dude from YouTube to just take their money? Or do you think it's more?
There's got to be a part of him that realized that the majority of the people who were following him and watching his content
Right.
were a type of people that wanted help in this area,
Right.
that couldn't get girls, that need to be motivated, like all like that. I think, and he probably made, if I had to guess, like I'm totally guessing at this, but
Sure.
maybe he made a video one time that sort of like introduced some of these topics. And it did really, really well for him. And then he just kept making shit until that became all he talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I think if anything
That's
should
how
get
most platforms end up how they are, is just
Yeah, that's
iterating
why I got to
until
watch a
you're-
bunch of pictures. Like Lane Norton posted a picture of him with his shirt off all the time because he did it once. He got a bunch of traffic. Now every week it's like I got to kind of look at Lane's junk in his closet. Like fuck, dude. Like post up your regular shit, dude. Like why? I don't understand when people like when something hits, people just like, oh, I know. I'm just gonna do this until no one fucking likes me anymore, and then find the next thing that hits. It's like sprinkle it in, like use a little tact, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like appeal to 10% of your audience all the time. Don't
Yeah.
go in and be like, I know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Make every woman on the planet hate me. Like that's just I don't know, man. Because I think this can go on, and obviously I'm sure people are upset, and maybe he's so irrelevant now that it doesn't matter. But it's like, you know, like the Callen situation. Like I'd much rather see Brian Callen reclaim his success as a comedian, and like they had him back on The Fighter and the Kid.
You see D'Elia put his first podcast out.
Yo, done
In a
with
year
him.
last
Done
year?
with him. Have you followed this story? Chris D'Elia, first off, not funny. I'm gonna go on record and say it.
Disagree,
I know you guys
disagree.
are fans. Yo, he's a creep, bro. Like if you're like, yo, this is legal in Connecticut, it's like none of this, your sexual behavior should never be asterisked.
Wait, but hold on.
Go.
This is my interpretation of what happened.
Now,
Because
disclaimer, you're a D'Elia fan.
I am. Big fan. Big
Okay.
fan. I'm a baby.
It's not
Love
funny when you
Gavin.
say it. It's not funny when he says it.
So he was just the dude. This was like 10 years ago that all this happened. Okay, this was before he was with the girl that he's with, and he has a kid now. Just to preface all this, so he used to travel and do shows, and when he would say, he put up in social media, "I'm going to be in wherever. Hit me up if whatever." And a bunch of girls would message him, and he'd message a million of them and say, "Hey, like, see which one's the hottest and try to hook up with them." Right?
That's the nature of all guys.
Occasionally.
Bro, you had a time period where you had like
Hey,
7
I'm not on trial here. Fuck off.
girlfriends.
Yes, exactly. See, you had a similar routine. Okay.
Yeah, but but yo, does anyone have a statutory case against them?
Well, you're lucky that maybe you just didn't have as much.
Who knows?
Oh,
In
did
10
my-
years, we might
I
see
don't
some
like that. Fuck.
Jordan Shallow text
No, you
messages
do the
coming
due
out.
diligence.
So basically, what happened was some of the girls that had messaged him were girls who had gone to his show.
Right.
Okay. And these clubs that he plays in are 21 plus shows. He assumed they're of age and messaged back and forth with them until finding out that they weren't of age, at which point he stopped communicating with them. But he had said some things that were inappropriate prior to learning their age that would not be inappropriate if they're of age. This is as far as I know. So he actually, a few of the girls who were posting about it publicly on Twitter, his legal team like went back and disproved a whole bunch of stuff that they had done.
Okay.
So as far as I see it, it's a guy who just cast a big net, which caught some underage girls in there, unbeknownst to him. And then, I mean, he had no like no relationship with any of them. It was just said things before he knew their age.
Right. I don't know, man. That's just such a weird thing for me. Like
Yeah.
I don't. At a certain point, you got to look at her, and maybe we're past this. I don't know. Maybe it's like you can't tell.
Have you walked around in Miami? A 17-year-old looks 35 here.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. Because I grew up in a time where a 17-year-old looked like a 17-year-old, and like I was a bouncer at a nightclub, so it was like, oh, sweetheart, go home, will you?
It's a
Like you got
different
PE
time,
tomorrow.
man.
Fuck off.
And the makeup techniques they have now.
Techniques.
Have you seen?
I haven't.
Have you seen the transformations that are available online?
I have not.
They can turn a legitimate goblin from Lord of the Rings into the most beautiful looking person you have ever seen.
This whole thing is about equality and women's, and you just go, yeah. I don't know, man. I grew up in a time where, and I was exposed to a lot of. That's a real bad way to frame it. Exposed to a lot of underage girls, but like I was a bouncer at a nightclub, right? So I was the guy at the door looking at the fake ID and looking at what's her name with the pig. It's like you're not. Like I don't need to even see the ID. I know, but maybe now it's different.
Oh,
but,
now it's for sure different.
But don't you think there's a responsibility, and maybe the timeline that you're laying out makes sense, but it's like, dude, don't even flirt with it. Like, are they that far from looking like? Are they that much like they look like they're 30?
Yeah.
That you, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I'm looking
Yeah.
at the two founding members of the Dalia fan club here. Just like,
But I'm not even talking about the Dalia case, man. Like, I'm just talking objectively about how I see girls on Instagram, or even like meet them sometimes at the gym, and I'm talking to them as if they're like my age, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm 17." I'm like, "What?" Girls making $10,000 a month in her Instagram business and shit, living alone in a penthouse in Miami Beach. I'm like, wait,
That
what?
girl that we just met.
Perfect example.
Taylor?
Yeah.
Yeah, that girl looks like she's in her like late
20s.
20s. And what is she, 20?
Yeah, just turned 20.
So, I mean, there you go.
the hard part is like, guys, no, you're not accelerating that as a guy. Like, I can still tell like an 18-year-old kid, like from a guy's perspective. So it's got to be really hard to be competitive.
When you hang out, yeah, but not if you just like see the person on Instagram or whatnot.
No, like guys, there's no makeup techniques for guys to make them look older. It's not like they're
Oh, you
strapping
mean
on a fake.
For a man.
For an 18-year-old right
Oh,
now,
sorry.
I can look at an
18-year-old
18-year-old. Yeah, for a guy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so that's going to be a
100%.
hard marketplace for an 18-year-old guy to get an 18-year-old girl.
Oh, impossible.
Yeah.
Because it's like you
18-year-old guy
still.
is getting mid-30 girl.
Oh, is that the?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to that
Yes.
flock of fucking vultures in the club.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
there's someone
everyone-
I
it
think the
works
message
out.
of this podcast is there's someone for everybody.
Yes.
Yes. This is words
Not
to live by.
everybody.
Drop a chart on this.
In summary.
Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta go.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Go break more gender profiles and go box and do all your crazy
Break
shit.
more
Yeah, if anyone's
stereotypes.
leading the feminist movement,
You're a
here,
pioneer.
too.
I don't know, like a feminist movement.
It's not
Well, feminist by
feminism.
its
It's not
true
feminism.
meaning, not by how
Right,
it's
not
What's the
portrayed.
meaning of
embodied.
feminism anyway?
Equality.
Equal opportunity?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't know how much I'm doing for that.
Come on.
What do you mean?
dude? Remember?
Okay,
when-
no, I
how
guess
many
equal
male-dominated
opportunity, yeah,
sports
but
do you
not
need to
equal
dominate
treatment. But
before
not
you-
equal treatment. And that's like where all this conversation started. I've been so...
Not equal treatment, but equal opportunity.
Equal opportunity is fine, but there's no equal treatment. There's equal opportunity.
But
for
there's
sure.
equal treatment
Well,
based
no,
off
there's
of
no equal
capability.
opportunity. No, I take that back. It's not always
That's
equal
true.
opportunity.
If I opened an OnlyFans, it wouldn't do very well.
I think you're selling yourself short.
Yeah, I think you do really well with it.
Yeah. People
Yeah.
might be curious, like, what the hell's going on?
No, I think you'd be surprised. Probably mainly gay dudes, but
Probably, yeah.
Okay, all right. This is our podcast. We're just gonna raid that in. I don't know. What are you guys doing? Hybrid Legacy, the new rebrand of the hybrid apparel. We're in the Fantasy Factory because we were talking a few years ago, just to kind of put a wrap on this. Like the last time all four of us were in a room, like we were in upstairs, old HQ on the hybrid table.
Oh, yeah.
And now we're here,
Yeah.
which has been a crazy ride for the last 3 years. Wadapalooza was 3 years ago. Last time me and him were out here, and now you guys are in the Gatorade storage closet with the podcast studio built around it. You guys got a Fraser program that dropped about a month ago now, a little bit longer.
So pre-sale's still on for that. That's the Hard Work Pays Off program that we partnered with Matt Fraser on.
it's the first time he's offering his CrossFit programming.
And his coaching for the prep stuff. I caught wind
Yeah.
of that. Unbelievable.
Pretty cool opportunity, and it's still available for people if they want to sign up. You sign up for the actual program launches on April 1st, but leading up to that is the pre-sale. And if you sign up for the pre-sale, you get a full breakdown. Like you get to go on these Zoom calls with Matt Fraser, where he breaks down the CrossFit Open workouts and gives you advice on how he would go about doing it. He does answers everybody's questions, that they have about the workouts and stuff, so that you have some guidance from literally the best in the world at the sport.
And the cool thing I found, I was talking to Cap about it was actually like very useful. Like I find CrossFit, they can break it down to be too technical. Like, oh, we're going to do this many reps and stop, this many reps and stop. It was very actionable. And it's like, oh, this is why he's best in the world. Because like, it's enough that you don't overthink it till you don't work hard. And then, but it's enough advice to be like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it was super interesting to kind of see a little tidbit of that. You're like, holy fuck, yeah, this is why he's the GOAT.
Yeah, he's awesome, and the program he put together is awesome. We're all super pumped on it. We have our dev shop team just putting the final touches on the app, so that will go out. His program will actually be released through our new app. It'll be the first one on the platform, along with 4 other programs. That's probably the biggest thing going on. We have our apparel drops that happen 3 to 4 times a month, so definitely check out Hybrid Legacy too. And
Just Hybrid Legacy on Instagram, Hybrid Unlimited Podcast, Hybrid Performance Method Gym, and there's another one.
Hybrid Performance Method, just the main
Right.
page.
And
So if
then-
you're too lazy to go look at all the other things, just go to Hybrid Performance Method on Instagram, and all of the other pages are linked in the bio there.
Hayden Bowe, Stefi Cohen.
Yep.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for
you.
having us.
Appreciate it.